Good afternoon, folks. This is Thursday, the 2nd of November, and this is, believe it or not, your Factivist report from Sunday. I was on vacation, so I didn't have everything I needed to actually make this right, so we put it off to today, and just a little opening. Today, we're going to talk about the Speaker of the House. Now, we are still on Project 2025. We are still on the Heritage Foundation. But this guy here has ties to the Heritage Foundation. He has ties to a lot of organizations that the Heritage Foundation talks about. He is undoubtedly, the Heritage Foundation likes this guy. They like this guy because they know exactly what he will do for them. They know exactly what he is. And so we're going to probably make this a two-parter. So we're going to do this one today, and we're going to do another one on Sunday. And then we will be back into full-fledged the Heritage Foundation again, because we need to talk about their plans for the Constitution.
Well, just understand that, and I'll cover some of it. We're not really straying from the Heritage Foundation, because how I started this whole thing was just looking at all the daily articles from the Daily Signal praising this guy.
And the Daily Signal, for those who don't know, is the mouthpiece of the Heritage Foundation.
Of the Heritage Foundation. So let's just start talking about the most dangerous person in the United States House. And it's not this guy, believe it or not.
Nope.
And it's not this
nope.
person.
Nope.
It's this guy. Now, before we start, I'm going to set some parameters. Number one, I want the algorithm gods of YouTube to know we do not agree with this man. We are not spouting Heritage Foundation talking points just to do that. We are taking point by point by point and skewering it. All right, that's number one. Number two, other than to talk about his family members, specifically his wife and her work, we will not delve into any personal nonsense. I'm not talking about the kid that he thought about adopting but didn't adopt, the black kid. And I'm not talking about rumors, oh, is Mike Johnson gay? I don't care. Okay, we don't care about that. The bottom line is, it's no one's business. And we are not going to fall into the same trap that these guys are, getting into your business and governing morality. So before anybody starts, I've seen it all on social media. Ooh, do you think he's gay? Not my business.
I'm going to just toss one other thing in here, because I think I talked to you about this, but it's the same thing that annoyed me about Nikki Haley.
Right.
Okay. Yes, I do know Nikki Haley's parents are immigrants. I do know she's Indian, and I get it. She's, a hypocrite. Let's face it. We all know that. But it irks me no end when people have to make this point, showing a picture of her that's clearly doctored with a red mark on her forehead and earrings that really aren't even on her ears, big Indian earrings. All right. You can make the point without doing that. I really, that bothers me, because that's the kind of shit the right wing does. I see it all day long on Twitter, what they do to gay people, and it annoys the shit out of me. And I think we can make our points and make them more effective if we don't do shit like that. That stuff really bugs me. I want to get that off my chest. Okay.
Now, this is a real picture of Mike Johnson. I will concede the point. He's very well spoken. He's very well put together. He is an accomplished lawyer, which we will talk about. However, he is also a Christian nationalist. We will talk about what that means. He believes that Christian faith is tied to the American government. He does. And whether you like the label or not, it is what it is. And for anyone,
he also believes that the Bible is the principal guideline for the American people. And he also believes that the GOP House has been ordained by the Lord to carry out what they're planning.
He said it in his acceptance speech.
Exactly. People be very afraid here, okay? Now, I hear people out there on social media saying he's going to be the last nail in the GOP's coffin. You know what? I am not taking that attitude a year out from the election. I'm not, okay? You know what? When the American people show me something that looks like they're paying attention to the fact that our democracy is teetering on the edge of extinction, then I will feel comfortable that he's going to be the last nail in the coffin. There's a lot of apathy out there, and apathy kills democracy.
Now, Mike Johnson has been praised by the Heritage Foundation. He has also been denounced by the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Human Rights Campaign, which we will get into, for exactly the same reason that the Heritage Foundation is praising him. So,
because they're bigots.
Heritage president praises Speaker designate Mike Johnson. Okay. And the president of the Heritage Foundation is Ken Roberts. So they were, complimenting each other, stroking each other, whatever you want to say.
My good friend, Mike Johnson.
My good friend, Mike Johnson. Yeah. I was trying to figure out for a little while what their, professional relationship was, because back in 2021 on Twitter, Mike Johnson congratulated, and I'm gonna mix the names. At one point I'm gonna call Ken Roberts Ken Johnson and Mike Johnson Mike Roberts. I know it because they're very similar, actually. So many congratulations to Kevin Roberts. This was back in 2021 when he became the president of the Heritage Foundation. So they're complimenting each other, patting each other on the back. Yay, whatever. Why? What? Well, Mike Johnson. Right name? Yeah. Mike Johnson. he was a lead lawyer for the Alliance Defending Freedom, which we will go into. This is primarily why the Human Rights Campaign and the Southern Poverty Law Center, started to criticize this man. So,
can you go back there for 1 minute?
Yeah.
I just want to make a comment. So read that little thing over here on the right, okay?
Which the
Heritage was created to be a battleship for the conservative movement.
Right.
50 years and 500,000 members later, we're still fighting for the everyday American. 500,000 members, 337 million people in America. When I tell you that the conservatives are not in the majority, I mean it, people. I mean it.
Right.
The Human Rights Campaign has a vastly larger number of members than the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
So you know, they are not speaking for the everyday American.
Right. So this is the Daily Signal. I did a search. They're basically every single day they do something on Mike Johnson. Not every single one of these. This is not really representative. 5,666. It really isn't.
Well, because the 666 part is. What are you fucking kidding me?
But they go into Mike Lee and all the different Mikes. So, but the first few, yeah. And there's one that I want to talk about specifically. And I believe it's on the second page. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Ron Johnson, Mike Braun back Rick Scott to unseat Mitch McConnell.
See, just so you understand, okay?
You think Mitch McConnell is bad?
Just so you understand. MAGA wants the party. Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, they don't fit anymore. They're not radical enough for these people. They want these people all gone.
And by the way, all of this search will be in the sources for you. The article in regards to Speaker Johnson slamming the FBI for targeting religious Americans, they're not targeting Americans for being religious. They're targeting Americans for extremist activities and violent activities and threatening activities. This was specifically against certain Catholic groups, extreme Catholic groups. So let's get into this real quick. After media bouquets for Pelosi, predictable brickbats for Johnson.
Good.
Now, it's about
in the trunk. I'd like to offer them up for they might want it.
Mike Johnson being one of the premier lawyers to promote the whole big lie, the insurrection. He helped create "Don't Say Gay" laws, Mr. Johnson, among a lot of other things. So this is one. All right. So let's see here. Here we go. So ABC's Rachel Scott said Johnson is staunchly anti-abortion rights, which he is, and not in favor for protections for same-sex marriage, likens it to bestiality. So, just saying, and saying that it's immoral and all that. He even voted against reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act in 2021. And this is a Daily Signal talking about this. Why? There were gun rights issues and religious liberty issues with it. Protecting women against violence.
But, we don't want to restrict people's gun rights because you know what? Their fucking Second Amendment right means more than your life is essentially what they're saying.
Okay. It's too much fun to imply favors violence against women. It's not really about that. What the main objection was, this is back when Obama, was pushing for the VAWA Act. They basically called it. Catholic bishops opposed Violence Against Women Act over lesbian provisions because they included gay
protection
people in the protections.
Yeah. So I guess it's okay to just, if gay women just beat the shit out of each other, that's okay then. Yeah, that's good. That's a statement.
So this is just an article talking about all of the positive things that came about because of the Violence Against Women Act, like 29, almost 30 years ago. But Mike Johnson, because, includes gay people and it potentially violates somebody's gun rights, this doesn't mean anything. Just saying.
Yeah, vote for it, just so we know.
There's a couple things. This landmark law provided funds for urgently needed services, improved legal responses, launched the work of creating a coordinated community response, bringing healthcare providers, schools, and other institutions into the work to prevent gender-based violence and heal those harmed by it. Now, what does that mean? He doesn't want that. Gender-based violence?
Well, gender-based violence could also be just women.
Right.
Gender-based doesn't mean gender as in transgender. It means gender-based violence.
But it does include that.
Yes, it does.
It reshaped our criminal justice system, introducing training for judges and law enforcement, which were largely failing
They probably don't want that either.
survivors.
That's considered woke.
Right. It set the stage for a national domestic violence hotline and funded the Office of Violence Against Women at the U.S. Department of Justice. So, in the years after it was enacted, domestic violence against adult women in the United States declined by more than 60%. So,
well, let's not, let's get rid of it because it's working.
right. And because it might include a group that you don't care about.
It might insult a new speaker.
This is the Heritage Foundation's argument against the separation of church and state. They're basically talking about the funding of religious schools to provide safe playgrounds, blah, blah, blah. That's one of their arguments. And I will say this, just to be fair, some of the legal arguments that the legal group that Johnson worked for, some of those cases they were actually decided unanimously. It's about signage and all that kind of stuff. That's fine, but then this is not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is imposing morality on people's everyday lives through the government.
No.
They're talking about, a school was denied funding to put rubber tires on a playground to keep it safer. That's an argument, but that's only one part of the picture. They don't want to show you everything else. Not right away, anyway. This is a little bit about the Establishment Clause, which was part of the first clause in the Bill of Rights. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion.
So let's make that clear. Okay? It also says that people can't be stopped from practicing their religion, but it also says that we will not establish a national religion. Get it? Right. Get it right. You need to get it right. We don't need to get it right.
Correct.
We're not wordsmithing.
Now, in one of these articles, it's a Huffington Post article, Mike Johnson says, no. I'm not trying to make Christianity the national religion. And he basically
said he
he basically contradicted himself, which is beautiful. Yeah. I'll get to it. So this is actually one of the better encapsulations of who Mike Johnson is. Why does he hate women, LGBTQ plus people, and science? Okay. So this is a pretty good article by Victoria Brownsworth, and this is the Philadelphia Gay News. Okay. And I'm going to read a lot of this because this was actually pretty good. Here are the basics. Mike Johnson is an election denier. He cannot state for the record that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. While that should be disqualifying, it's not. Worse still is that Johnson led the legal effort to toss out millions of votes for Biden, starting with Pennsylvania. The New York Times called Johnson the most important architect of the Electoral College objections, which may be why Donald Trump says he'll be a fantastic speaker, I would imagine. Okay. Johnson also voted against establishing the bipartisan January 6th Commission, represented Trump in the impeachment hearings on his defense team, and led efforts to have Trump's impeachments expunged.
Next paragraph's my favorite.
Yeah. According to Johnson, mass shootings are a result of the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. He blames the rise of mass shootings on no-fault divorces becoming legal, legalized abortions, and schools embracing the teaching of evolution.
Of course it is. Why didn't I think of that? It's so obvious now. It's not that the Republicans are constantly bashing gay people and they're anti Semitic and they're nasty and they encourage violence. It's all of that shit. I should have known.
While the nation was still focused on the mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine, the NRA put out a new ad featuring Johnson. In the ad, Johnson says he opposes background checks and waiting periods to purchase firearms, safeguards, and nearly 80% of Americans support. Now, Johnson did staunchly support thoughts and prayers during these trying times.
Yeah, of course he does, because he's a Christian nationalist. It's always easy to pray to somebody we don't even know is up there.
Like most Republicans, Johnson is a staunch anti-abortion rights extremist who supported nationwide bans. He has an A+ rating from the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. Johnson worked as a senior legal counsel. He was up there for the Alliance Defense Fund, now known as Alliance Defending Freedom, for which he fought to shut down an abortion clinic in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Alliance Defense also supports anti-LGBT lawsuits, which an important one is coming up in the Supreme Court, which we will talk about. The Southern Poverty Law Center has designated the ADF as a hate group, which, of course, they're fighting. I don't know if they're fighting in court, but they're disputing it, of course. We're not a hate group, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, the Dobbs decision, I don't know if he helped write an amicus brief, but he did help with that case in some ways. After Roe was overturned, Johnson tweeted this message for abortion providers in Louisiana: perform an abortion, get imprisoned at hard labor for 1 to 10 years, and fined $10,000 to $100,000. Johnson also worked for a crisis pregnancy center, Imagine Life Ministries. They used a mobile van to target abortion vulnerable women and persuade them not to terminate their pregnancies. Basically, it's bullying.
Right.
According to tax returns filled with the Internal Revenue Service. Johnson was the bookkeeper for that pregnancy center from 2016 through 2021 while he was in office. And the year that he first was elected in the House was when the Southern Poverty Law Center designated ADF as a hate group. Okay. As Business Insider reported, crisis pregnancy centers often appear to offer abortions to draw pregnant people in, or bait and switch, but then use high-pressure tactics to shame parents into foregoing an abortion or spread medical misinformation about the procedure. Johnson's history on LGBT issues is equally bad and dates back decades. As Business Insider noted, new House Speaker Mike Johnson knocks Biden's cognitive decline, but can't remember all the times he attacked LGBTQ relationships.
I'm going to tell you just one little thing about the cognitive decline thing. If I were them, I'd stop talking about it entirely. If you've been listening to Donald Trump lately, he's a fucking mess. So, let's shut your word hole.
Johnson voted against the bipartisan legislation to codify same-sex marriage and Respect of Marriage Act, which Biden signed into law last year. And I guarantee you, Johnson is helping to lead the fight to codify making that illegal. Johnson has also sponsored legislation by Marjorie Taylor Greene called the Protect Children's Innocence Act, which would make it a crime to provide gender-affirming care to people under 18 years of age. And there are there is a very important Supreme Court case moving forward talking about the banning of conversion care. And the argument is that conversion care and the banning of it is a violation of free speech rights.
Go away.
Right. And which I know
it's a violation. People trying to force you back into being straight is a violation of free speech rights.
Right. Johnson introduced a national Don't Say Gay bill last October, predicated on the Florida DeSantis's notorious Don't Say Gay law. Calling the bill common sense, Johnson said in a statement, the Democratic Party and their cultural allies are on a misguided crusade to immerse young children in sexual imagery and racial gender ideology.
That's bullshit. That's
the bill called the Stops the Sexualization of Children Act is meant to prohibit the use of federal funds to develop, implement, facilitate, or fund any sexually oriented program, event, or literature for children under the age of 10 and for other purposes. Okay.
And let's just repeat this right here. As is often true of these bills, the language in the proposed law conflates sexual orientation and gender identity with sexual content such as pornography and stripping. Okay? Let's understand what they're doing here.
The bill prohibits federal funds for being used to support any sexually oriented programs, events, and literature for children under 10. Basically, Susie has two mommies. I can't remember
Heather.
Heather has two mommies.
It's Heather, they had two mommies. Susie had two daddies.
Okay. All right. Ban federal facilities from hosting or promoting drag queen story hours, allow parents and guardians to sue government officials, agencies, and private entities if a child under 10 is exposed to such materials.
It's all about the money. Go ahead and sue. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry.
And we will talk about this later. So Johnson spoke during a GOP-led House hearing on the dangers and due process violation of gender-affirming care for children. He's basically trotting out an anti-gender-affirming care activist who is detransitioning. She's 19. That's her business.
It is.
But she wants this because of her negative experience. I believe her name is Chloe Cooper. Her experience to ban it for everybody.
You know,
your experience isn't anybody else or isn't everybody else's.
Right, it isn't. And you know what? Let me just say this. And I said this to you on the phone last night. Unless you have surgery, if you decide you don't want to do this, something happens somehow and you wake up some morning, all you've got to do is stop taking your meds. It's all you've got to do. All right. All right. Usually, if you're having the surgery, you're pretty far along in the process. Okay. I have someone here who has been in transition since 2017. No surgery yet, not rushing into it. Just understand it's not what people are making it out to be. People like this idiot.
Johnson alleged a veritable conspiracy in academia to, here we go, transify and gay up students. I didn't know those were words. Whether it's by scalpel or by social coercion.
They're not.
I guarantee you, no teachers are talking about safe spaces.
No, they're not.
Well, that's what they want to do. Teachers want to create safe spaces for kids.
But they're afraid to. In some states. In some states, they don't have any problem like where I live. Which is why I'm never leaving here.
Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to. All right, this is what I wanted to get to, and once I read this, I'll move on. But while working as an attorney with the Alliance Defense Fund, Johnson collaborated with Exodus International. Good Lord, from 2006 to 2010. By the way, he was a counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom from 2002 to 2010, just so you know. So from 2006 to 2010, Exodus International shut down in 2013, but Johnson hasn't left the conversion therapy business. His wife, Kelly, currently runs a counseling business that advocates the belief that homosexuality is comparable to bestiality and incest, according to its operating agreement. Onward Christian Counseling Services is a Bible-based pastoral counseling agency. The website Since Scrub cites socially conservative beliefs about LGBTQ plus people and reproductive rights and referred to homosexuality being sinful and offensive to God.
Just so you know, just because they scrubbed the website, it doesn't mean they don't believe that anymore. It just means they don't want you to fucking see it.
Right, right.
So you understand that? Okay? I can assure you that Mike and his charming wife haven't changed their attitude one damn bit.
We believe, and the Bible teaches, that any form of sexual immorality, such as adultery, fornication, so nobody can have sex, by the way, outside of marriage, homosexuality, bisexual content, bestiality, incest, pornography, or any attempt to change one's sex or disagreement with one biological sex is sinful and offensive to God.
Is that right? Because God never said that.
Now, by the way,
God actually defended people that were believed to be hookers, if I recall correctly.
So, all of this, creating laws based on this, you don't really believe in the separation of church and state or the Constitution, do you?
Correct.
No,
he does not believe in the separation of church and state.
So
he's made that kind of clear, I think.
Southern Poverty Law Center. Why is Alliance Defending Freedom a hate group? They first listed it as a hate group in 2016. It supports the idea that being LGBTQ should be a crime in the United States and abroad, and believes that it's okay to put LGBTQ people in prison for engaging in consensual sex. It's also supported laws that requires the forced sterilization of transgender Europeans.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Human Rights Campaign. Okay. Supposed moderates in GOP conference chooses speaker and election denier who called LGBTQ people a deviant group. And this is by Delphine Leno last week, October 25th of this year.
Just so you understand, there are no moderates in the House. When the moderates remain quiet as the MAGA people run amok all over this country, and then when they cast their vote for a MAGA guy, there are no moderates. They just want you to think they're moderates. They're not moderates. Okay.
So here are some bullet points, and it pretty much, a lot of it mirrors what we've already talked about. Johnson sponsored a national "Don't Say Gay" bill. Okay. Johnson led a congressional hearing attacking health care for trans youth, which I will get to in a moment. And this congressional hearing is directly attempting to it's attempting to persuade the Supreme Court in an upcoming case regarding conversion therapy, which, by the way, Mike Johnson and his wife are
involved in.
So,
and which, by the way, has been deemed dangerous and harmful to people by actual psychiatrists and people who are schooled on it. You know, not politicians and people running around with a fucking Bible in their hand.
Right. In his time in Congress, Johnson has earned nothing but zeros on the Human Rights Campaign congressional scorecard, which rates lawmakers on how they vote on bills of importance to the LGBTQ plus community, which he obviously is not an ally. Key votes included Johnson's opposition to the Equality Act, the Respect for Marriage Act, the LGBTQI plus Data Inclusion Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and the Violence Against Women Act. Okay. So after working behind the curtain for years at ADF, either helping to craft or defend legislation backed by the religious right, Johnson was elected to the Louisiana legislature. By the way, it has been suggested by several people that he was only voted in because of gerrymandered districts. I have to look into that a little bit more. Makes sense to me. Johnson was elected to the Louisiana legislature, where he dedicated his one and only term to rolling back LGBTQ plus rights. In 2015, he authored House Bill 707, a license to discriminate bill.
Nice.
That would have prevented the state government from enforcing non-discrimination provisions when professionals or businesses discriminate against same-sex couples. By the way, again, I've said this over and over again. As people may know, I am a union representative for my local. I cannot choose who I represent. The government cannot choose who they represent. So
Well, they can't, but they are.
They are.
This particular government will choose who to represent. It will.
During his time at ADF, Johnson argued that homosexual lifestyle is morally wrong and physically dangerous. In response to an anti-bullying event that supported LGBTQ plus students. So in a 2004 editorial piece in the Monroe, Louisiana News Star newspaper opposing marriage equality, Johnson wrote, "If we change marriage for the homosexual activists, we will have to do it for every deviant group. Polygamists, polyamorous, pedophiles, and others will be next in line to claim equal protection." So there you go. And there's another, his wife, I know it's probably coming up. His wife helped push for a covenant marriage law, which basically says when you get married in Louisiana, you have to sign this contract saying that you won't get divorced unless these provisions happen. You go to counseling, you can only get divorced, under certain circumstances.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Gilead.
Exactly. And a lot of these, the Huffington Post, New York Times, all of these are talking about exactly all the stuff that, come for the Noah's Ark theme park, stay for the relentless efforts to strip women's and LGBTQ's rights. There we go. So this is by Jennifer Bendery. Again, October 25th, 2023. All this stuff is coming out because Mike Johnson got the vote. Nobody really was talking about this guy.
But that's what it is. I mean, look, this was the stealth move.
Exactly.
Right? Stealth move. Look at that. Look at that. This is no matter how anybody wants to view this, I really believe the MAGA takeover of the GOP is now complete.
Yep.
You had moderates there, and this is the confusing thing. All right, who wouldn't commit to whoever the hell? Who was the first guy? A moderate.
Scalise. Was it Scalise?
Yeah. Who was the guy after Scalise? Emmer? He dropped out.
Well, was Emma Jordan was after Scalise.
Right.
And then Emma. And then this guy.
You had the moderates. The moderates couldn't come to the table for Emmer, but they came to the table for him. All right. Understand what we're saying here. This was the plan from the beginning, was to put in a MAGA. They weren't going to let Emmer get in. And neither were the moderates. They needed the moderates to get anybody in. This is what I'm saying to you. They needed the moderates. The moderates aren't moderates. They're masquerading as moderates. They're masquerading as moderates. The House passed the fucking Don't Say Gay bill. It's going to be dead because it's not going to go to the Senate, but the House passed it. There are no moderates in the House. Get over it.
So here we go. Johnson worked for Alliance Defending Freedom for 8 years, from 2002 to 2010, before serving a brief stint as a Louisiana legislator and then heading to Congress in 2017. He first became a known entity in his state. This was him, and his wife has been working, with religious groups also. And her big thing is conversion therapy. But she worked with him on this too. He first became a known entity in the state in the late 1990s when he and his wife went on national television as the face of Louisiana's new marriage covenant laws, which make it harder to get a divorce.
Good. That should increase the domestic violence too.
Right.
Be great. As long as you're not a woman.
Which, of course, domestic violence is because of the legalization of abortion.
Right.
Where's that? How's that?
And because we're teaching evolution.
Right. Okay. This is a pretty good article by the New York Times, but we've pretty much gone over all of the stuff, and it's not going to show. There we go. For Mike Johnson, religion is at the forefront of politics and policy, which, by the way, he says he's not trying to create, Christianity as the national religion. Here we go.
The liar, okay? They lie. They lie. They all lie. The GOP
I know.
nothing but lie. If their lips are moving, they're fucking lying, okay?
So here we go.
He's lying.
Mike Johnson says he's not trying to make Christianity the national religion.
He's a liar.
Right after praying in the middle of the floor after his confirmation vote, whatever.
Let's all get down on one knee and pray, because God has ordained the GOP to take us into the future and make America right again. Somebody here, okay?
David Moy, Halloween, which is appropriate in my mind. The House Speaker's comment did not reassure social media users who's concerned about his advocacy for the religious right.
Oh, shit.
So, at the end of the day, we have to protect the rights of citizens to protect themselves. That's the Second Amendment. But not protect women for being shot or pistol whipped. Yeah.
So let me ask you, that guy that killed 18 people in Maine, was he defending himself? I don't fucking think so.
Right.
The guy that shot 56 people at the Pulse in Florida, was he defending himself? I don't think so.
So Johnson was recently asked for his thoughts on being characterized as a religious fundamentalist or a Christian nationalist by former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and other critics. Look, there are entire industries that are built to take down political leaders like me. I'm not surprised by that. What? Like groups like the Heritage Foundation, trying to smear Biden like left and right. Okay, so here's his quote. He added, "I'm not trying to establish Christianity as a national religion or something. That's not what this is about at all. If you truly believe in the Bible's commands and seek to follow those, it's impossible to be a hateful person."
What does that mean? What does that mean? He's full of shit. It's word salad.
Well, no, he literally contradicted himself.
He did. He's full of shit.
Okay. So
what if you here's the question. All right. What if you don't believe in the Bible?
Right.
What if you believe in, I don't know,
the Quran?
What if you believe in the Talmud? What if you believe in the basic tenets of Buddhism? What about that? What if you choose not to fucking believe one thing? What if you choose to not believe there is a sky god in any denomination? Where do you fit in this country? He's full of shit. You understand me?
So this is a list of the Alliance Defending Freedom's 15 Supreme Court wins. Some of them, not all of them, were legitimate. A gentleman who was putting up signs to direct people to his church event or whatever, and he was told he could only have a really small sign that nobody could see, as opposed to political signs, blah blah blah. That actually went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court unanimously said no. He can have signs as big as whatever.
Right.
Okay, fine, but they increasingly get more and more. This one is what we're going to be talking about. Tingley versus Ferguson. This one is coming up. Brian Tingley is a licensed marriage and family counselor of over 20 years in Tacoma, Washington. He works with children, adults, and couples dealing with marital and family conflict, sexual orientation, and gender identities, struggles, depression, anger, and stress management. However, in 2018, the state of Washington passed a law that would censor conversations between clients and counselors like Brian by dictating which personal goals they can or can't talk about. What are we talking about? We're talking about conversion therapy. All right. Brian could violate the law simply by having conversations with his clients on matters of gender, sexual orientation, sexual behaviors, or sexual attractions that the government doesn't like. The law threatens Brian with fines up to $5,000 per violation, suspension for practice, and even permanent revocation of his license. What words did they not say in this? Conversion therapy.
Right.
That's what they're talking about. Okay. This was actually a pretty good article. $102 million Alliance Defending Freedom goes on the offense. The next targets for the group that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yep. The next targets are going to be contraception.
Yep. So they went from defense to offense, from these cases that actually the Heritage Foundation was talking about, funding for religious schools, or the ability to put a sign up or whatever, to much more intrusive topics. Originally founded as a legal defense fund for conservative Christians who believe their religious freedom was being violated, ADF has increasingly gone on the offense. ADF is now working to see Supreme Court establishing parental rights as a constitutional principle.
No way.
Which could increase the effectiveness of book and curriculum bans. So, from gospel to secular cultural wars, originally founded as a legal defense fund that would help keep the door open for the gospel, ADF is now going after and raising funds to fight less explicitly religious concerns, including corruption in the bureaucratic state, which gets into the whole alliance with the Heritage Foundation, frankly, which is conservative code for eliminating government departments and cutting spending. So, and which is going to be a huge thing in terms of what we talk about in terms of budget and all that. ADF has an extensive training program and network of law clerks who work with powerful judges. Amy Coney Barrett, the Supreme Court's newest justice, taught an ADF summer program for 5 years, but she testified in 2017 she didn't know ADF ran the program.
Even though she ran it for 5 fucking years. And,
right.
and the question remains, is she really all that bright?
Right.
I can't. That's like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she didn't know Nicholas Fuentes was a white supremacist.
Right. Missing personal freedom, mission number one. For decades, conservative Christians opposed the left's passion for personal rights, including speech, pornography, birth control, abortion, and gay rights. It's changed now. ADF now gushes rights talks, writes Kirkpatrick. In fact, Kristen Wagner, its chief executive and general counsel, sometimes sounds as she works for organization's nemesis, the ACLU. So they're kind of, again, kind of muddying the waters, I think. The next one, which to me is the most important, protecting your freedom to discriminate. ADF wants to protect the rights of some Americans, but for decades it's attacked the quote unquote homosexual agenda. Again, the government has to protect everyone and not pick and choose who they want to give rights to. Okay.
And understand this. If you allow them to take power, they will become the government that will pick and choose. You will not be able to stop them if they get power. You will not.
This is Mike Johnson talking about that, basically getting into the whole Tingley discussion, conversion therapy, all of that. The effects of experimental gender surgery on kids is destructive, new House Speaker says. And this is when he brings up Chloe Cooper and all of that. All of it just seems terribly destructive. Seems, by the way. Where's his, that doesn't sound like scientific data.
It isn't scientific. There are not.
Chloe Cole, I'm sorry. Chloe Cole. I think I said Coleman. Chloe Cole.
You said Cooper. It's Cole.
Cooper. Okay. Chloe Cole. Apologies for the name. You know me and names. But Chloe Cole, she is a person who was transitioning under a doctor, by the way, who was not sanctioned and not performing legal practices.
So, again, all right? Again, when you are going to a doctor for a specific thing, do you not look for that? People, I'm sorry here. I can't.
Right. Now, even transgender groups and medical groups have said that this particular person, Chloe Cole, my apologies for the previous name mangling, she underwent procedures dating as early as she started taking blockers at age 12. And I don't remember, but it was under the age of 13 when she started binding her breasts early, but she had a double mastectomy and then regretted it. And then eventually decided not to get reconstructive surgery, blah, blah, blah.
So let me just say this. That is, I don't know what state she was in, but
I think it was California, believe it or not.
That is, to have surgery that early into this thing is highly unusual, frankly.
Right.
I've got a child approaching 23 in March, and is not taking that step yet.
She is now a national activist and someone who is anti
trans. Of course she is.
Trans. Yeah. Or transitioning, she's against the transition therapy because of her own
personal experience with a doctor she probably shouldn't have been going to and who was not qualified to handle this prospect. This is not, something, folks. Her experience is not everybody's experience. I can vouch for that.
The next big front in the legal war against the LGBTQ community is that Tingley versus Ferguson case, challenging Washington State's law banning conversion therapy for minors.
And
Tingley, he's being represented by ADF and the lawyer Christian Wagner, claiming that this ban violates his First Amendment rights. So, um, if I'm not mistaken, was that the what was the argument for abortion? Wasn't that free speech as well?
No,
No, what was
hold on.
trying to remember.
Yeah, well, I know what's her name wanted it to be based on gender equity, but
Right, but it was something else.
same.
Oh, the 14th Amendment, something in the 14th Amendment.
I think you're right. Hold on,
But yeah,
I'll look it up. You talk, keep talking. I'm looking it up.
yeah. But let me so yeah, Chloe Cole from California's Central Valley, facing mental health challenges as a minor, which included being on the spectrum. She is a detransitioner, describes herself as a former transgender kid. She was diagnosed with gender dysphoria at 9, treated by Kaiser
Permanente.
Permanente clinics in San Francisco Bay Area between the ages of 13 and 17. This is the
14th
whole thing.
Amendment.
The 14th?
It was based on the 14th.
Yeah. So she described herself as being a tomboy, which again, she's really prominent as a anti-transitioning activist. So this might be part of where that argument came from. Who didn't fit social norms, only started thinking about transgender after creating an Instagram account and reportedly being recommended lots of LGBT content, blah, blah, blah.
I can tell you now what they were both argued on. The Roe v. Wade and gay marriage were both argued on privacy.
Right.
Privacy.
Yep. 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 Cole says she began transitioning at 12 years old. She had been sexually assaulted during her 8th grade year and began binding her breasts afterwards. Then
Again,
she started, yeah.
did she get any help after that? I mean, this is again, we're attacking the whole transition process. When did she get any help after she was sexually assaulted? I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I just it's all of this is now all very tied into a bunch of other factors that affect her,
Right.
and that
Which,
is ridiculous.
ironically, I wonder how the Violence Against Women Act could have helped her.
Yeah, well, we don't know because Mike Johnson didn't like that one.
Right. So, you know, let's see. Oh, here we go. So she had a double mastectomy at age 15. Okay, that's so less than a year after the surgery, she realized she may want to breastfeed someday, which she won't be able to do. 17, she reverted to using her birth name and detransitioned. Cole had said her doctor did not follow the standards of care from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health.
Well, why don't you go after the doctor?
That
Go after the freaking doctor.
That is perfectly reasonable.
Sue the doctor.
Right.
Don't
go after the entire process.
Beliefs on everybody else. You know, right. People, honestly, I'm sorry, but people will do. There'll be plenty of people who do their homework before they go to the point where she went to. I don't understand that whole process happened, but a lot of this is the doctor. A lot of this is her parents and her. That's all I'm saying. It's got nothing to do with me, my kid, the person down the street who's transitioning successfully. The rates of detransition is very low. And you know what? That again is your body sovereignty speaking. Whatever you choose to do, you need to be able to do it. That's all I'm saying. But this nonsense, trying to stop it for everybody because of your bad experience, that doesn't work. That does not.
Now this girl is young, and the ironic part too, I'm not sure about this, but I know that certain representatives in the MAGA camp are looking to raise the voting age, saying that young people can't make their own decisions.
Yeah, they want to raise it
It's a
to
little
25, I believe,
right,
because they know people between the ages of 17 and 25 aren't going to vote for them mostly. That's why.
right.
We all know what that's all about.
But Mike Johnson is elevating this person to national status even more, even though she had a very traumatic, multiple traumatic experiences, and is now trying to affect national policy based on that.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming her, but she is being used in a way that's unconscionable.
And apparently, parents still can't see it.
Right. Well, she doesn't blame the parents.
I know that. I'm just saying, she still has parents though. So
right.
They clearly aren't on all firing on all cylinders. I'm sorry,
right.
It's just not.
Right. So I know I mentioned it. I'm going to mention it next, or like probably next show. I'll probably even do a short show on it. So the moderate Republicans aren't afraid of Mike Johnson because, hey, we have a small majority and we can take this back. When it comes to the budget vote, we're in real control. Really? You voted for the jackass.
That's exactly right. So if you're trusting the moderate Republicans now, knowing that they voted for him, then you're pretty dumb too. Just saying.
Don Bacon, Mike Molinaro, or Bacon, Don Bacon, is that his name?
Yep.
So,
the pity that they named
Lawler, Molinaro of New York. There's some California guys. Listen, they put them in. Okay. Oh, we can control them. How many times have I heard that?
Yeah, I think Kevin McCarthy believed they could control MAGA, didn't they? Didn't he think Kevin McCarthy was a moderate? Didn't he think he could control MAGA with the moderates? How'd you do with that one? Not so good.
All right, let's see if I can get this up. Ah, crud. Hold on. So, let's see here. I don't know what happened. This happens sometimes with Substack. No, that's not. No. Forget it. There is a good Substack article. There's Podhauser. He talks about the emergence of the religious right and how that coincides with the MAGA movement and all of that. I'll put it in the sources. I don't know. Hold on, let me see if I can find it because it's actually. Come on.
Haiser.
HAI?
Haizer. Dennis Podheiser?
Probably.
Derek Podheiser. I don't know.
Blah.
I don't know who it is.
Well, he's a lawyer for the AFL-CIO.
Okay.
So he's legitimate.
I'm just saying I've never seen him before. I probably just didn't know he was on Substack. I don't know.
Right.
That might not be him, but
hold on. Let me see if I can find this stupid article. There we go. I'd have to. You're not going to see it. I have it in another browser. Hold on. Let me put it back up real quick. Okay. He has charts and everything. So Michael Podhorzer, sorry, again with the names, former political director of the AFL-CIO, senior fellow fellow at the Center for American Progress, and he's a political writer. And he basically talks about, MAGA and the rise of this. Yeah.
Click on continue reading. That's all you got to do.
And he has charts and everything. How white Christian nationalism hacked Congress.
Yeah.
Through the primary. Look at all this.
Great.
Increase in primary challenges. The lock on the Republican caucus, rather. Stages of conquest. We're talking about Gingrich.
Yeah, of course we are.
The moral majority. Okay.
Yeah. All the way
this
back.
Is much. Yeah.
They were starting around Reagan's era.
Right. So, yep. Beginning with the Reagan era, then Gingrich, MAGA. So, and again, this will be part of the sources. Finally, and I'm not gonna go back. Come on. I'm not gonna go back to the screen share. There is a really good short video by Midas Touch. We normally don't push videos like this, but one of the things that's going to derail Mike Johnson is when you have the other idiots in Congress trying to make his arguments for him. Lauren Boebert tried to mirror his arguments. Mike Johnson actually sounds very eloquent. He's put together. He looks like a Poindexter. He looks kind of like one of those meek, mild-mannered guys. Don't let that fool you. Evil comes in many different forms. When the devil comes at you, is he going to come at you with his horns or with a business suit on?
Right.
That's where we're going with this. But Maxwell Frost basically puts Lauren Boebert in her place, where she talks about how the churches or the religion is not supposed to work for the government. Government's supposed to work for religion. No, that's not how it works. That's what the whole separation of church and state is supposed to be. They're not supposed to interfere in people's worshiping or not worshiping.
That's right. It's none of your business. None of your business.
But and some of the early legal work by the ADF and some of the things that Mike Johnson did back then reflected that. Some of it, a little bit, but a lot of it, they take it to a whole new level and tell people how they're supposed to regulate their morality,
right?
Whether it be by through covenant marriages or anti-LGBT legislation,
right?
And please, I still believe that Mike Johnson's main purpose in this was to drive the budget, and I still believe that. But all of this wrapped up in it was a huge bonus.
Yep.
For the religious right, for the Heritage Foundation, and for the right wing in general.
Yep.
So
we have to stop that now. We need to turn that into a liability.
Right. And for those of you who believe that Congress is the answer to getting rid of some of these people, Santos lost we lost that vote. However, Deb did bring up a good point, and we're going to bring this up this weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to bring it up.
It was made up by Jamie Raskin, actually. And
right. There were 13 Democrats who voted to keep him, but not even for gamesmanship purposes, because he hasn't been convicted yet.
Right.
This is what government does.
Right.
This is what government's supposed to do. You're supposed to represent everyone, and they are actually representing George Santos's right to due process.
There's a bigger reason for doing this. You know, if we do this and it's successful, then it's open season for the right wing on us.
Correct.
Understand,
That too.
people. Understand. You're setting, well, every time something like this gets done, you're setting a precedent. Okay.
Right.
When people couldn't understand why wasn't Jack Smith going after Donald Trump under the 14th Amendment? What's wrong with him? Remember all that? What's wrong with what's his name? What's wrong with this one? What's wrong with Jack Smith? What's wrong with Attorney General? There's a lot of questions about the 14th Amendment and how that's going to be interpreted, because it ain't never been used since the 1800s. So that would have been foolish for Jack Smith to base his entire prosecution on Trump on the 14th Amendment. We're going to see the decisions on the 14th Amendment as they decide the Colorado case. Then we'll know more.
Correct.
Okay. So,
and it's very possible that Donald Trump won't be able to get on the ballot legally. You know, you might have some write-in ballots, but that he won't legally be able to get on because of the 14th Amendment and the insurrection clause. Yep. So we'll see. But this whole argument
my prediction is, if it works in Colorado, you might see the majority of the swing states try that. Why not? You know,
why don't they just kick this one off the ballot? Why don't they just kick Marjorie Taylor Greene off the ballot? Why don't they just if you make it easy
off the ballot? Understand this. Okay.
If you make it easy, you're going to make it easy for the other side. Look at how many people are trying to censure this one, that one, this one over the Israel opinions.
Right.
Okay. Which is a whole nother thing, which eventually I'm going to get to. Be very careful where you are. My personal belief, before we go, in terms of the Israeli, by the way, again, religious freedom. As long as you're not infringing on someone else's rights, and as long as you're not killing other people or, you know, violating their sovereignty, leave them alone. And Deb and I actually agree on this, a two-state solution. Absolutely. But we're not there. We're in this country. We can only do so much. You want to support those in Gaza? Donate to the UN fund, bringing fuel and desalinated water to a lot of people.
All right, I don't want to get into this because this is not the topic.
No, that's in the weeds, but I'm just saying.
But I'm sorry. We're going to get this off my chest, and then we're ending this. Hamas is not a good player. Okay?
No, they're not.
Hamas does not give a shit about the people in Gaza. No. Hamas has made the people in Gaza's life 10 times more difficult by doing what they did. All right? Let me explain something to you. They are using the Palestinian people to get to make their end run around to get what they want. They don't give a fuck about what happens to those people. Not one iota. If you're following Hamas, you know this, okay?
Can I basically say this? Equating Hamas with the Palestinian people is similar to equating Americans to the KKK. Not all Americans are bigots and violent and destructive.
By the way,
just like not all Palestinians are Hamas.
By the way, I'm going to say this. I'm tired of people getting annoyed with me because I support both the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. The Israeli people that were killed, they didn't do anything to the people in Gaza. The problem is Benjamin Netanyahu's government. It has always been the Israeli government. The people who live in Israel, they're not all anti-Arab. That's bullshit. That's a lie. Okay? It's the same principle. I support the people on both sides of this coin. I do not support Hamas. I do not support Benjamin Netanyahu. But you know something? At the end of the day, for the people who are saying that Joe Biden's not trying for a ceasefire. That's actually not true because you have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. You only
we don't either, really.
on social media. But we only see what's on social media.
Right.
We don't. For a fact, there's an article out there, and it's in the Washington Post, that they have been pushing for a ceasefire, and Benjamin Netanyahu's response was, this is not the time for a ceasefire. This is a time for war. Joe Biden cannot force another country to do what we want him to do. All right? He is the leader of Israel. He's going to do what he's going to do.
There is a reason. There's a reason why I brought this up. Believe it or not, Deb, there's a reason. Mike Johnson doesn't want to give any relief aid to people involved in the war in Israel for religious reasons.
Go fuck yourself.
I'm just saying, you don't inject that into the conversation. There are innocent people dying on both sides.
Right.
Hamas is not a good player. I know that. The Israeli government, not a good player on many levels. I know that too. But the people caught in the middle, those are the people that need help, assistance, fuel to get to hospitals, water to bathe and drink, and all of that, and as well as other valuable resources. So that if we talk about this in some other show, and it's going to get there because we got to talk about it when talking about the budget.
No.
We're going to get there. You need to think of this in a humanitarian way. These people had nothing to do with anything, just like those people in Maine who were mowed down by a psychopath, or the people in Columbine, or the people in Stoneham High School, or the people in this one, that one, or the other thing.
Right.
You know, I know for some people it's a leap, but these people are just trying to live their lives and they're being firebombed.
Right.
Okay, so just before you start taking sides and pointing at this one being, this one being a bad player, this one being a bad player, don't fall into the whole nonsense with the right wing. And there are people, again, using this as a political football to take power away from the Democratic Party.
That's right.
We'll understand that too.
And you have to understand this too. There is never, ever a ceasefire right away. There has never, ever been a ceasefire right away in any conflict that has ever happened anywhere in the fucking world.
Deb, how long has this conflict been going on? For centuries.
No, this is
thousands of years.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
The only solution to all of this is a two-state solution. It's always ever been the only.
Always has been.
And that's the only solution we've got. But they have to get there. It's not my job, and it's not Joe Biden's job. It's his job to push for it. The UN is pushing for it. He's pushing for it. Benjamin Netanyahu is saying no. Okay?
And by the way, for those people, I swear to God, for those people saying, why don't we just get rid of Netanyahu? Stop. Just stop.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You're not in government.
Life is so simple.
You don't just get. How did that work with Gaddafi? By the way, how did that work with Hussein?
Yeah.
How did that work? You just created turmoil everywhere by eliminating these leaders.
We're not doing that. We're not getting into that.
No,
that's not acceptable. I'm not. Don't even go there.
Well, I went there. I stepped out.
Seriously, you get rid of Netanyahu. What about all the people under him? They're all hardliners.
Right.
Put another hardliner in. Cut it out. It's no way.
When you get rid of someone that hardcore, you energize the people underneath him. He becomes a martyr.
All right, seriously, read a book, do whatever you got to do. Don't try to dictate foreign policy.
But going back to Johnson and all of this with Israel, this is what happens when you inject religion into politics.
It is.
You create a freaking mess.
Yeah.
So
All right, gang.
that's it.
I'm gonna get this tonight. Can I get these today? No, huh? Tomorrow.
Probably not because I got to go to work in a couple of minutes. I'll try, but
No.
you know,
All right. Well, this will be up
I'll
tomorrow.
do it tonight. Yeah, I'll do it tonight. I'll do
Okay.
it tonight when I get back.
All right. Okay, gang. We'll see you Sunday.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
Okay. See you then.